It's a big thing with guys. We cover up so much stuff, but women have incredibly finely tuned bullshit detectors. They can smell stuff. You can train yourself to do that. I remember walking around with Steve P. and Hypnotica out there in Arizona, where I used to live for a little while too, in the boonies. And you walk around with this freaky thing, like a little stick that glows on a baseball hat, and you walk like this, and you see like the 3D. And you look straight, but you look sort of like the magic eye, these pictures that all of a sudden they pop. And it's like that. All of a sudden you can see all kinds of energy. And women will feel that. They may not be able to do this woo-woo thing like reading your aura, but they can do the next best thing. They know exactly where you're stuck, whatever your issues are. They will feel it. It's almost like we're walking around with a panel of buttons. These are boundary holes buttons. They're emotional charges. And it's like you have all these buttons. And women will see one light up, and they say, oh, this guy's got that issue, let me push that button. And it's true, that's what they do, not purposely, not because they're biatches or anything like that. They're just doing it intuitively. They can't help it. They're women. That's what they do. They're here to test us. They're a reality check for us. And they will push these buttons. And what happens is, normally, when you have a button or any kind of issue, you push it, a light comes on, and you know, oh, wow, this is number 47, whatever it is. And you feel that. But that's not how we work. We hardwired such an emotional response to it that you get it's almost like you push the button, you say something to a guy, and it hits that point, and a little bomb goes off. Emotional implosion, or whatever it is. And you react, you create drama, whatever it is, that you don't want to create. So these exercises, what they'll do, and the one I'm going to show you in a minute if you want to see it, is that you clear that stuff, and instead of that involuntary knee-jerk reflex where a bomb goes off or an emotional implosion, somebody pushes that button, you say, oh, a little light bulb comes on. You say, oh yeah, that was that issue, but I no longer feel the emotional connection to it. And that's where you want to be. Because otherwise, whenever you're sarging, you're going out there, or one of the really bad things, I teach a lot of sexuality. Tantra, if you will, I've done that. Taoism, a lot of techniques for guys, I call them pleasure sizes. For women too, to have better things, to make sure things work when you need them to. And one of the biggest issues, I think, for most guys is that you get a 10, and you have that hot, self-confident girl that Gene Joe was talking about, and then it's time to get, as David D'Angelo says, get the job done. And you're like, so your adrenaline is pumping, and you see these girls, and somehow your insecurities will come up at that time. And you get what we call performance anxiety. And then things may not work for you. And that's one of the reasons why you want to get into this whole inner game stuff. What moves people is emotions, it's trance, it's symbols. And I'm going to be a little melodramatic here. I'm just going to I got this little sword here, and I'm going to pull it up. Behold, the sword of power. Okay, now we're done with the theatrics, but what does, a little anticlimactic, but what does the sword mean? I mean, what's the whole point of it? It's a symbol of masculinity, power. It's a pretty phallic thing, it's sexual stuff, but it's got a bunch of other symbolism. It's a symbol for being a man, a knight. In the old days, you didn't just pick up a sword and call yourself a knight. A knight was a guy who was a man. It was a symbol for a man who had mastered all that stuff. You had to earn the right to wield a sword, to call yourself a knight. You had to face your inner demons so you could slay your outer dragons. You had to just face your fear of death. And that made you so fear-free or fear-deficient that you could go out there and do stuff. But the sword also means another thing. It's a symbol, to cut one thing from another. And that comes from Latin, decidere, or to decide. The symbol of the sword helps you to decide which path you should follow. There's two paths in life. I talked about this a lot with Steve P. And we call it the blue pill, the red pill, the path of the mundane. Mundane in English means almost the opposite of what it means in German. It means average, the path of the muggles. if you're Harry Potter fans. Or you take the path of magic, which is where you face all that stuff. You become courageous, and you go within. And you can only serve one of two masters, fear or faith, lack or abundance, weakness or strength, pussy poverty. So you have to make those choices very early on. Do you want to just keep going sarging and just leave everything and just wait for that to fix your inner problems? Or do you really want to go and take care of these things? On the path of the mundane, you become needy, clingy, you give your power away, you're trying to get something for nothing, you get lucky with women. And on the path of magic, you just naturally attract them for who you are. You have that magnetic pull. You walk into a room and women can feel that. You know, what we all learn from most of this empowerment stuff, we're like the alpha guy, and we walk like this, and we take up a lot of physical space. Like, that kind of body, like, you can figure a certain guy in the United States where somebody said, this is how presidents walk, Mr. I'm not going to say the name, but then you walk like this, and you take up a lot of, does that make you a man? I don't know if, there may be still a scared little boy inside. So presence is a whole different thing.